let the water seep in, squeeze a little lime in
Oh,
there.
you know what? You might need to run the intro again. We were streaming,
Okay.
but we were not live. So we are live now.
All right, welcome back to another episode of The Cage Potatoes, our third installment, and now new territory for the podcast, our first live stream. So, hello, if there is in fact anyone listening out there. I am one of your hosts, the C in The Cage Potatoes, Connor. And this, my dear friends, is my brother in MMA, and in fact, brother in real life, Paul. We're both longtime lovers of mixed martial arts, and while I have some background in Muay Thai, 10 years following the sport, and more bet slips than probably any 27-year-old should have, uh, Paul here is not only a decorated Afghan combat veteran of the United States Army, but a veteran of more than 10 amateur and professional MMA bouts. He's fought under a variety of banners, including Titan and Victory FC, currently and has trained alongside a number of Bellator and UFC vets and a newly promoted BJJ brown belt. So congrats again on that, Paul. So if it's not clear who to listen to on this podcast, it's me. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Connor. And we do have one concurrent viewer, two concurrent viewers. The Spartan Leader says hi. Hello, Spartan Leader. Thank you for being the first person to chat on the live stream. And also someone named "In the halls of madness dwells a mad philosopher." So these sound like two reliable, straightforward internet people.
Welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here. And Paul, I see you're sipping on a little something. What do you got there?
Yeah. So I was in the liquor store at my local establishment, and I like to support local businesses, right? So I picked up a local, to me, bourbon, the Falls Church Distillery's Church
Ooh.
Bourbon Whiskey, supporting the hometown of Ryan Hall. Yeah, so
Oh yeah, well, a virtual cheers to you, my friend. If any of our viewers, listeners are out there, have something to grab a hold of, we invite you to and raise our glass to you. Let's have some fun. Let's talk some MMA. Let's talk last week's events and what's going on this week.
yeah,
Uh, so one thing I did want to bring up, Paul, is I'm pretty excited about it. As I mentioned on the last podcast, I'm going to be spending some time in Miami coming up here in August. So I thought, who better to tweet at than Jorge Masvidal and ask for his recommendation on some Ropa Vieja. I was having a few drinks. I was feeling a little confident. Tweeted out to Jorge, told him I'd be visiting the city for the first time, and asked him where to get the best Ropa Vieja. And he responded to me nicely enough and told me to check out Cafe Versailles. So I'm definitely gonna be checking that out. I know you're gonna come visit. We're gonna hit that up. But now I got some Cubans tweeting at me to SOS, help save Cuba. I don't know, Paul. I think I might be involved in something bigger here than I was ready for. I don't know. Am I basically JFK at this point?
I mean, as long as you don't become Che Guevara, right? As long as you don't have the tacky facial hair, or a reverse Che Guevara, right? You would be undoing the Cuban Revolution. So I don't know what a reverse Che Guevara facial hair would look like. I imagine a robust beard, but a shaved head, perhaps. I'm not sure how this goes, but you're stuck with it. The Cuban, up to 30 Cubans on Twitter have appointed you their designated savior. So, Cuba, freedom is coming. How?
It's
Unclear, but it is coming.
it's coming. And if you guys want to have some fun, follow some MMA tweets. You can give me a follow at few like Clew. That's CLEW. And I'd love to follow you guys back. I'm sure you guys are MMA fans if you're listening. So feel free to give us a follow. And we're dropping our podcast. We're shooting to do it about once a week. We got a couple things delayed us here, so we're actually going to be trying to do it a little earlier in the week going forward. But for now, we're looking at Tuesdays, Wednesdays. But maybe we're going to shoot for more dropping on Sundays or even Mondays. So you guys can stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Which we got 6 concurrent viewers. What are you guys drinking? Concurrent viewers there in the chat. If so, what or what is your drink of choice? And of course, if you have any MMA related questions, be sure shout them out. No question too strange, though that's some famous last words.
Well, hey Paul, since the last episode we had to go over some of my not so great bets. Why not start with rehashing one that finally hit for our followers? a Miesha Tate victory. I was feeling really confident in Miesha in that going into that fight. Felt like Marion kind of had one foot out the door, and Miesha was really fired up. So our 1.25 unit bet cashed for 1 unit, which if we're following along, if we're doing our math after we lost 1.19 on the Aldana and Tapuria parlay and 0.5 on the Stephen Thompson fight, that puts us at negative 0.69 units exactly. Nice. Yeah. But don't worry, we got a pick for you later in the episode that's going to get us back on track, get us back in the black. Paul, she looked great. What'd you think of the fight?
Yeah, I thought Misha looked like she was, largely returning to form. She looked good in the stand-up. She's always been a grappler, so it didn't shock me to see the finish come from a sub. But yeah, I think some of this was the UFC. The UFC knew who they were giving her, and the UFC wanted to see one of their most prominent women fighters get a W, right? But Marion Renault is she's not a world beater, right? As you said in the previous episode, she's a part-time gym teacher, and is a game fighter. Nobody can say that in her UFC career that she ducked tough fights and that she didn't bring it. But it's a far cry from the division's elite, I think. But overall, man, I'm sure for Miesha Tate, it felt great to be back. It looked like she had a great camp. Maybe there's some truth to the idea that Brian Caraway was like holding her back. That he was, that it was a case study in MMA couples where only one fighter can really be the flag bearer for the pair. Maybe that's true. I'd love to see. I would love to see Misha, challenge for a title. I'd love to see her get some wins under her belt. Right? It seemed like she was a big star in an era when they weren't making big star money. And in this era, I'd like to see her get her due. Right?
Absolutely. And just to correct you on one thing, it was not a sub. She was threatening with some subs, but it was actually a third round TKO finish. She put her away on the ground with punches, but a very impressive performance nonetheless. Afterwards, she's given the spiel that most fighters who make a successful comeback are saying all the bantamweights can get it. Holly Holm and her were exchanging some words. Is that a rematch that makes sense for you? Is that a fight you'd like to see next for her?
I'd say it is. I mean, Holly Holm is another veteran of the sport, right? She also has a large profile, a little bit of that shine from Ronda Rousey. And, I think that's a really logical fight for her. Holly Holm, unlike Miesha Tate, has taken no time off. And that's a danger, right? Holly Holm always brings it, right? She doesn't seem like she's missed that much of a step. And, I think that's a dangerous fight, but it's a good test to see if the old Miesha Tate or if this version of Miesha Tate is better than the old Miesha Tate, or if this is a worse, if this is a lesser version of that fighter.
Yeah, and like you said, Holly's been active, so she's a little higher up in the rankings than Misha. Obviously, Misha has that very notable win for her UFC bantamweight championship over Holly on the co-main event of the McGregor Diaz one. So they had a lot of eyeballs on that fight. Holly Holm is obviously a huge name in women's MMA, arguably one of the top 3, top 5 in the whole sport. So I think that fight is a great matchup for them. I don't know if the UFC wants to do that next necessarily, but I think that's a great matchup. And Holly Holm's 39, so if she wants to gets another title shot, that's what Misha came back for. She didn't come back just for a couple of fights. I know she said in the lead up that she would need to fight and win 3 times in a year to make the equivalent of what she was making from ONE FC. She had a kind of executive position over at ONE FC, so it's clearly not all about the money for her. So I think that's a fight that makes sense for both girls. I think you could do that. That could easily main event a fight night or an ESPN card. or be a really big co-main for a big pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think that's the fight to make. Okay, so what do we got? We have So in the chat, Philosopher said they're a Long Island iced tea fan. Okay, we'll respect it for its alcohol content.
Yeah, as long as we're doing all 5 liquors and we're going heavy on it, I can respect that. And it looks like our boy Jalen here, a little worried you're just drinking red vermouth. Reassure him, Paul, that is not the case.
Right. No, this is Falls Church, Virginia's finest bourbon. I just put in 1 bartender's black cherry just to give it a little bit of extra, but that syrup gives it that weird red vibe. So rest assured, I am drinking like the functioning alcoholic I aspire to be, but can't really do, because if you work out and you sweat, then you have to make a choice, and you just can't be an alcoholic who also sweats a lot, who works out.
I don't know. You remember that guy on the GSP Ultimate Fighter season, the crazy drunk Muay Thai guy he brought in, who just stumbled in and just started beating fools' ass left and right, and they just didn't know what was going on.
Dude, he didn't even look like he was trying. It was wild.
We could be like him, Paul. We could be like him.
Maybe. I've only trained drunk once. Really, really drunk. And it was barely training because everyone was drunk. So I think it's probably not a great call. I think it's I don't think I have like that drunken master, like you get drunk and you become lethal. I don't think I have that in me. I'm pretty confident.
Probably all for the best. But so definitely a great win for Miesha Tate, and obviously we can't ignore the main event of last week's fight card. Makachev rolls, looks dominant. 3rd or 4th round submission finish, I believe was the 4th actually, and just looks great. And in the post fight interview, not in the cage but later on, and Borachina Depot, great Twitter follow if you guys aren't out there, had this spliced up and out there quick. Makachev, quote, "I don't need Hooker." Pretty funny. Doesn't need Hooker. We all know he's talking about Dan Hooker, of course, but maybe not. So I don't know. He looked great, Paul. What do we think's next for Makachev, and what do you think of his performance?
I mean, so here's the debate, right? Makachev looked great. His association with Khabib, right, that raises the question: is Makachev the next Khabib? And that's what's on my notepad here. But the problem is, ultimately he beat a tough, talented dude. But was he even in the top 10 when he fought? If he was, it wasn't.
His opponent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's ranked like 14 or 15.
Right. So he fought a top 15 guy, Thiago Moises, and it's just not like we haven't seen. This is not the what's the word I want? This is not the welcome fight. This is not the coming out fight for Makachev. This is something. This is what sets up what should be the coming out fight for someone like Makachev. I mean, he looked great. His grappling looked strong. His striking looked solid. Again, I could he be the next like Khabib? I don't know. It's tough to say because it's like you grapple enough to win, and it looked great, but you always ask, okay, how are you going to fare against that next tier of opponent? What do you think, Connor?
I mean, obviously he looked great. The problem for him is he's had trouble getting fights, and it's just so chaotic in the lightweight division, top 10 right now. I can just read through it right here. Obviously, you have Oliveira as a champ, Poirier 2, Gaethje, Dariush, Makachev at 5, Chandler, McGregor, Ferguson, Dos Anjos, and Dan Hooker to round out the top 10. I will include Gregor Gillespie in there actually because that could maybe be a very interesting fight stylistically. Both of them with just obviously incredible grappling skills, kind of wrestling skills. Makachev a sambo fighter more so, but that's the other thing I think we got to consider here is who in that mix is going to be willing to take the fight. Just reading through that list, I would love to see Dariush. I don't know if Dariush is thinking a bigger name and a better stylistic matchup for him. I don't know if he would take that fight, but that would be a banger for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dariush it has the potential either for fireworks or for a takedown and smash in a round. I think it's really, it's kind of a crapshoot. Dariush, I feel like, there's just something about this Dagestani grapplers where they get a hold of you and they can just drag you into their world and make it a boring, smothering, exhausting fight. And I don't know if Dariush, if I've seen that elite level wrestling from him, that it would require to keep it in Dariush's wheelhouse.
Yeah. I mean, manhandling Ferguson the way he did maybe isn't as big a deal as it once would have been. And then, I mean, RDA, could you see him as a potential opponent?
I think that would be a great... I think that may actually be the one of the better choices. RDA has a lot of star power. He's got a lot of name recognition. Yeah, he still looks really sharp. And he's got the diverse background to see if Makachev is a one-trick pony or he's like Khabib, where his unique style can dominate, fighters with a more diverse skill set.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously they think a lot of him right now. He weighed in and was back up for the McGregor-Poirier fight. So, generally you saw Chandler was back up for the Khabib-Poirier fight and then got a main event against, a title shot against Oliveira. So, obviously the UFC appreciates those kind of backup replacement type positions, and so you got to think they're going to reward him with a big fight. Maybe tell him, hey, fight Makachev, we'll give you a main event, and this could be a title eliminator, or maybe set you up for loser of Oliveira, Poirier, or maybe fight a Gaethje next for a title shot. It's just so stacked in the lightweight division. I don't know about you, but it's always been my favorite division, and it felt like it got clogged up for a few years, just with Khabib only fighting every once in a while. And obviously the UFC just wants to give McGregor a title shot in the worst way, but now that's out of the picture. So I think there's a lot of good fights to put together and could help clear the picture out.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's a blessing in disguise that McGregor, had that big ankle break, because at the end of the day, the McGregor of the past 3 years is not a title contender, and it's time to open this up to the dozen other super elite level fighters that are a win or two away from title contention. It's just you got to get them to fight each other, right? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. So we'll see how they shape up the division. I know Poirier was talking. He wants to wait till December or so to do the title fight. So maybe we'll see them do a sort of kind of co-main event lightweight, like they did with Chandler and Hooker as well. So, yeah, a lot of fun things to look forward to in the lightweight division. So, Paul, on to our favorite segment, or my favorite segment, I should at least say. You're not that guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that guy. And
I just want to point out, I have my own "You're Not That Guy" for this week. So I want to hear your.
Well,
I want to hear who you think is not that guy.
I hope it's one and the same, because that'd be pretty cool. But we'll see. Let us know who was more of not that guy this week. For me, it goes out to none other than Jeremy Stephens. And after spending the week leading up to the fight talking about how he'd never signed an agreement with Jakar Close, who he shoved and injured at the weigh-ins, because, and I quote, he has zero tolerance for that kind of behavior. He shoved him with his hands behind his back, injured him, and the fight got pulled, and Stephens has zero. Anyway, Stephens goes out there, gets steamrolled by KSW alum and Polish brethren Matus Gamrot, a beautiful, quick submission victory for Gamrot. Afterwards, Close had some expert trolling. I'm going to read a tweet here. So savage, the only fight Little Heathen MMA won in 3 years was against a man with his hands behind his back at weigh-ins. Well done, Jakar. Well done. Now Stephens this week, it's come out, is calling for a fight with McGregor, who forever cast him as who the fuck is that guy? Paul, what the hell is wrong with Jeremy Stephens here? And does he have a place in the UFC still?
That was, man, dude, we are brothers. Does Jeremy Stephens, is this the end of Jeremy Stephens, is also on my no card. So, man, after getting here's the thing. You injured another fighter at the weigh-ins. That's an asshole move. You know, no. I think the answer is no. Jeremy Stephens should get a farewell fight that he can win, and then just, you know, be put out to pasture. I understand he wants McGregor, and maybe when McGregor comes back, Jeremy Stephens is a winnable fight, right? It's a known name. It's someone who's like sort of legit, and the UFC, you know, Stephens will do a gazillion pay-per-views, and maybe that'll be his retirement bonus. If he's been in the sport long enough to warrant a pay-per-view cut, which he may or may not. It's tough. He probably has some old contract from back in the day. But, yeah, I think Jeremy Stephens, man, this was 5 years ago he had a career resurgence, and people were talking about him. So I think that resurgence has gone to pass. You know, I think it's time for him to, again, get his retirement fight, get out of there. You know, he was an old school Miletich guy, and those guys took damage in training. So I can't imagine, even if he's training smarter now, man, I can't imagine just the accumulated damage he's taken over his career.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a 15-18 career UFC record, a losing record, obviously over 30 fights, so, you know, against top-tier opponents, but at the same time, he hasn't been able to string wins together for a while. It feels like he's kind of grasping at straws here, calling out McGregor. I don't think McGregor's not going to take that fight. Maybe it makes sense as far as where both guys are at in their career, but we all know McGregor's not going to take that fight. He's probably, if he catches wind of it, he might burn him even worse on Twitter. I don't know what Stephens is thinking here. So for me, you're not that guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that guy. Who you giving it to this week, Paul?
Ooh, okay, so my person who's not that guy, believe it or not, is Logan Paul, right? Logan Paul, the rumor has it, is negotiating or close to signing a deal to box Anderson Silva in September.
What?
Yeah. So, listen, for those of you that don't know, Anderson Silva, at 46 years old, just beat the brakes off of, what was it, Julio Cesar Chavez? Like an elite.
Junior.
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. But still, a former world title holder in boxing, in the sport of boxing, who is 36 years old. So, at an age where there are still plenty of active fighters at his weight class, Anderson Silva, a decade older, tooled him up in boxing. It was old form Anderson, right? He would walk back. He literally walked himself into a corner, put his hands up, and trolled Cesar Chavez to come at him, right? Like the classic "come at me, bro," right? And again, a world title holder in boxing was powerless to stop Anderson Silva. So logic dictates, of course, that Anderson Silva's next opponent, after having thrashed one of the greatest, living boxers, it is a YouTuber. Logan Paul perhaps believes he is that guy, maybe because he had a sparring match with Floyd Mayweather. And to be fair, Anderson Silva should make Logan Paul boxing someone money. He deserves it. He's one of the greatest champs of all time. He should absolutely poke around, dance around, troll Logan Paul. I think Anderson Silva, who is a troll fighter without peer, it would be a pleasure to watch him, put his hands behind his back and duck around Logan Paul's pretty awkward shots.
Beautiful.
It would be great. It would be wonderful, and frankly great for the sport of mixed martial arts, and probably terrible for Logan Paul's career, but boxing career. I'm sure his YouTube career will be fine. But yeah, Logan Paul believing that stepping into the ring with Anderson Silva is a good idea is, to me, the pinnacle of being not that guy.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a great pick. I think Logan, he just went, I think it was 8 or 10 rounds with Mayweather. I didn't watch the fight. I wasn't going to buy that. But, from all accounts, Mayweather just kind of carried him through the fight, wasn't even really trying, which, there's a 50-pound weight difference there or so. And Anderson would be just as big, if not bigger than Logan, I would think. And, if he wanted to, I think that could be a real short night for him. It's funny you picked him because I saw a tweet this week about, which MMA fighter do you share a birthday with? And And I got looking at it, and for some reason Logan Paul was listed on there, and we had the same birthday. He was born on April Fool's Day. So I share it with Logan Paul and Vitor Belfort, of all people, also an April Fool's baby. And he's got an upcoming bout with Oscar De La Hoya in August, I believe. My friend sent me shout out Devin, a hilarious picture of LeBron James throwing up his powdered dust, and his caption was, "As soon as TRT Vitor lands on Oscar, this will be Oscar." Pretty hilarious stuff, and I don't know. So it's just funny seeing these MMA fighters getting into the boxing world, but good for them. Make some cash in the tail end of their career, and these are winnable fights too. So I don't know. I think that'd be good. Do you think we'll see the emergence of Zuffa boxing that we heard for years from Dana? Would that be a Zuffa fight? Logan Paul and Dana seem to be buddy.
Yeah, I don't think so, and here is why, is because a boxing event is subject to the Muhammad Ali Act, right? And so that would require Zuffa to provide 50% of gross revenues to fighter pay. And Dana White, will never do that because it's literally a waste of their time and energy to put on an event like that when they have UFC events where their portion of revenues going to fighters is between 15 and 20%. So, to me, zero logic to putting on boxing under the Dana White auspices. But that said, I think the joke here that remains ridiculous is, of course, the fact that Vitor Belfort will probably make more money from this fight, potentially, than he's made in his whole UFC career. It's reasonable to think that a former UFC title contender will net, $1 million, $2 million from fighting a prominent boxer, right? Like Oscar De La Hoya. And of course, TRT Belfort, this is for those of you that aren't super familiar, TRT Belfort is the version of Vitor Belfort that was authorized to use a therapeutic testosterone replacement therapy, which obviously, as a UFC fighter, they are known for their low testosterone levels. And so logically, of course, he should receive a medically prescribed dose of testosterone, and in order to, maintain his physical performance. And the fact that he had vasculature in his chest, biceps the size of like watermelons, is just a side effect that no one should have been alarmed by. So,
literally removed an eye. Well, not removed, but just permanently disfigured and apparently does not work. Michael Bisping his one eye from that spinning heel kick.
Yeah. That's pretty, that's actually kind of messed up to be like, okay, Vitor Belfort juiced to the absolute gills. If you want a fun Google search Vitor Belfort TRT before and after. It looks like the air was let out of a beach ball. It's stark, honestly. But the TRT Vitor Belfort, or maybe Vitor Belfort will take it to the next level, if there is such a next level in this exhibition boxing fight, in which case Oscar De La Hoya may experience some trouble and or trauma.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to lie. This is actually a fight I might be interested in buying and watching. I bought the Askren Jake Paul fight a little ashamedly, but I kind of had to see what Askren would bring. I thought he'd bring a better game. I don't know what I was thinking, but for some reason I thought Jake Paul fought a bunch of nobodies. Ben Askren's a combat vet. Maybe he'll go in there, but his striking looked as we've come to know it, and that was a short fight. Entertaining pay-per-view nonetheless. They had some good acts, some musical acts in there, and a couple other. Frank Mir fought on the undercards against some legit opponents. So I don't know if they put that card together with a couple other interesting bouts, I might actually tune in for that.
Yeah. You know what? If it's the retirement fund for Vitor Belfort and or Anderson Silva, then you know what? I'm all about it. I wouldn't begrudge any MMA fan to purchase that. Okay, Jalen wants to know which Team Fortress 2 character would be an overpowered UFC fighter. So I'm going to break your heart. I know you're thinking heavy which is the giant minigun wielding character from the game. But I think he's too big for the UFC, right? The heavyweight kind of cuts off at 265, and that dude seems pretty big. I would probably go with the Scout. I'd probably go with Scout. Scout's their fast, lightweight, run around character. So
I'm going to defer to Paul on that one.
Yeah, it would definitely be Scout. He would just kind of grind people out. But thank you for that question. That's at least tangentially related to mixed martial arts. Yeah, we're gonna say Scout. Okay, so yeah, So next on my list is UFC on Vegas 32 in Vegas. I don't know.
Who knows at this point? Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen. It's a name to get to know.
Yeah. I was watching some of his fights, and yeah, this dude is he's just made of something different, man.
He's fast twitch, just freak athlete, a lot of power. That Frankie Edgar KO is honestly hard to watch. As a big fan of Edgar, that was absolutely vicious. I believe that was this year, so I mean, for me, that's a knockout of the year candidate for sure. He looks like he's on an absolute tear, and obviously this is a big fight for Dillashaw making his return here, and it's just kind of a weird disposition for Dillashaw coming into this week. He's one of these guys that got caught doping, got caught doing steroids, and most of the time we hear, oh, it's tainted supplement, or I didn't know, or there's just a ton of excuses, but he's pretty much just been open. Yep, I was just straight up doing steroids. And I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, my understanding, and stop me if I'm missing something here, but what he was busted for was actually EPO. And that is the same thing that Lance Armstrong was busted for. And it's actually not steroids. It's a technique to increase the oxygen carrying capability of your blood. And it lets you, fight out longer over especially 5-round fights. And so, the question is EPO decisive, right? Is it, and nobody really knows, right? Because obviously the Lance Armstrong era of cycling was phenomenally dirty, so I doubt it was just EPO. And it may not have been just EPO for TJ Dillashaw. That may have just been what got him caught, but it may not be what the full spectrum of what he was using. If he was doing EPO, was he also, doing steroids or androgens or whatever? That's the question. That's the question that, I think it's on everybody's mind, right? I assume now under USADA, TJ Dillashaw is clean, but he was suspended for 2 years?
Yep. Yeah, and thank you for that correction. There is a notable difference there. But I don't know. There's just something I don't appreciate the way he's just kind of tried to sweep it under the rug. He said in interviews that it didn't make a difference for him, which you alluded that maybe it's possible it didn't. But if it didn't make a difference, then why were you doing it in the first place? So I don't know. And here's a quote I have here from him coming in this week. There's not going to be a slip in my performance. I'm going to go out there and look dominant. So it's going to be a great one. I think my performance is going to erase the controversy. After Saturday, when I come out there and you see how good I look, can Dillashaw just erase the controversy? Can we just? Does he really think we're just going to forget about this? I don't see how you can. It's true. If he goes out there and he looks like peak form Dillashaw, then more power to him. But I think there's so many questions, especially because of Dillashaw's career arc, right? Remember, he was a mediocre Ultimate Fighter contestant. And that's a show where they were famous for having their mediocre fighters were truly mediocre. So, he especially
goes
in those later seasons.
Yeah. So he goes under Dwayne Ludwig, and he does, I want to say it was 2 fights under Dwayne, and then he looks like a monster, like a
breaks away from Team Alpha Male.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point, right? And he because Dwayne, that was when Dwayne also left Team Alpha Male.
Right.
So I think that's a huge question, right? And you ask yourself, okay, right? The hype at the time was TJ and Dwayne Ludwig. Like, are these guys? Is Dwayne Ludwig like the coach of the future, right? Getting out from Team Alpha Male has made him like this world beater with these phenomenal angles, and it looked to be true. And here's the thing, it is true. His boxing was a universe better. He was a totally different fighter. I mean, he outboxed so many good strikers.
He was one of the biggest. It's one of the biggest upsets to this day as far as odds against Renan Barão. I mean, people were saying Renan Barão was absolutely unbeatable. He had won about 30 fights in a row. Basically, no one gave Dillashaw a chance, and he came out there and just totally outclassed him. I believe a 5th round TKO, and just looked better each round. And then they did the rematch, and he finished it even quicker. And beat Cruz, beat Garbrandt. I mean, he had a hell of a run.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you ask yourself, like, how much of that was a technique improvement, better strategic choices, and how much was his willingness to engage in doping? We're going to find out, right? But even if he loses, he's just going to say, oh, it's ring rust, I'll be back. But a decisive win where the fans know he's clean will do a long way to erase that legacy. Because it's unfortunate, right? He'd be a legend if he was clean. And it asterisks everything he did up to that point.
Yeah, he looked way too skinny, way too sucked out for that Cejudo fight. I mean, I think that had a lot to do with him getting finished. He's not a 125er. So this is a really big fight for the bantamweight division, and against, like we said, a really, really tough guy. Actually, Paul, this is going to be my pick for the week here. I'm going to throw one unit on, and not every book offers this, so you may have to play with it a little bit, but my book has available for the fight to be finished in round 1 or round 2. So a first or second round stoppage, whether it be KO, DQ, submission, any of those would work. And that the odds on that are you're getting plus 140. So I'm going to lay down a unit for me is $100. I'm going to lay down $100 at plus 140. I think like we talked about Dillashaw, there's going to be questions about his ability to go far in the fight. I think he's from what I'm hearing, he wants to make a big statement. He's been waiting for this for a while. I think he's going to come out aggressive. Sandhagen is aggressive anyway. He's a powerful striker, and I think this is going to be kind of a firefight from the get-go. And I kind of see this going as either a first or second round stoppage. I think you're getting plus money on that. I really like the value there. I looked at the 3rd and 4th round, but I just think, and a part of me wanted to just go Sandhagen in those rounds, but Dillashaw, you don't know. I mean, he could come out and starch him too. But I think this is going to be an exciting fight for sure. So I'm definitely excited for that one.
Yeah, this is going to be fireworks. I mean, I personally have Sandhagen in this. He's younger, he's more active. There's also a lot of difficulty in getting around reach. And Sandhagen has phenomenal reach, and he's really good at punishing fighters that try to close the distance, i.e. Frankie Edgar, right? So I don't. This is an incredibly tall order for a TJ Dillashaw to go from total inactivity for 2 straight years to fighting one of the most challenging bantamweights in the UFC today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for that fight. Unfortunately, looking at the rest of the card, there's not a lot of name value there. Mickey Gall makes his comeback. I am a fan of Mickey Gall, but I don't know. We're going to find out what he's got left. We got Darren Elkins on the card. Macy Barber, who was kind of a hot name there for a while, but I don't know if you've ever seen her fight, Paul. She'll throw some jabs from about 6 feet away from you that have absolutely no chance of landing. I'm hoping she's cleaned up her striking a little bit. Ian Heinisch, I don't know if you know about him at all. He spent like 2 or 3 years in jail in the Canary Islands. He was smuggling ecstasy in like England. Yeah.
Wow.
Got locked up in French prison, and has actually made a pretty decent career in his comeback. He was off for a few years, so he's a guy I kind of keep an eye on and root for. But you're not going to have a ton of name value except for the main event this weekend. But definitely a fight card to tune in for at least the main card. Any fights you're seeing on that card you're interested in, or just
I mean, so I have questions. So I think the two that sort of struck out to me is Aspen Ladd and Chiasen. I think that could be competitive. It's two, female or women bantamweights, women strawweights, right on the cusp.
I think they might actually be flyweights. They might be in the middle there. No, it's a bantamweight bout.
Yeah. Okay, it's bantamweight.
And you got Ladd. Ladd is a -200 favorite, so a 2-1 favorite coming into the fight.
Yeah, that actually favors her more heavily than I think it should. But I think Chiasen has the way easier schedule. They're both it's like 7-1 and 9-1. But Aspen Ladd has beat a little bit more of a who's who of the division.
And her only loss coming against Durand May, who obviously is an elite level women's fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially after the bell.
Yeah, right. You gotta listen. You gotta get it in where you can get it in, right?
Yeah, that was you actually you weren't able to go. Your ex-girlfriend had tickets. That was the first UFC event I went to, UFC 208 in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah.
Which is funny because I've never gone back and watched the fights, but everyone talks about that card being one of the worst ever, basically, like one of the most boring. But man, if you would have fooled me, because I was just having so much fun. I don't. If you guys have never been to a live event, I would definitely recommend going. It was just so much fun. Anderson Silva on the card. Jim Miller, Dustin Poirier was definitely the highlight of the night. They had a great fight. And then the home Durand May fight, obviously some controversy. But it was a great card, and for me at least in person, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a good card. Well, any live UFC event is worth it, I think, for sure. I'm definitely glad we got the Philly card. I think that's a better memory, right? Seeing Edson Barbosa get
starched by Gaethje.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. We had a good time. We got our Philly cheesesteaks. We got a few drinks. We hung out outside Wells Fargo Center, and we definitely enjoyed the fight. So we'll have to keep an eye out if we're going to be able to maybe get to another one here sometime in the future.
Yeah, I'll show you. I've still got my Geno's coaster. Yeah, gotta rep the legends. I've got my Pats on my work office there.
Nice. And you prefer Geno's, right? You kind of sided with Geno's. Yeah. I'm more a Pats guy myself, but yeah, if you're ever in Philly, those are the tourist spots to check out. It was funny. I follow a photographer from Pittsburgh who just posts some awesome pictures of the city, and he said he's coming to Philly for the first time. Give me your cheesesteak recommendations. So I hit him with Angelo's in South Philly. It's kind of a newer spot down in the Italian market section. It's one of these places you can only call. They used to just be walk-ins only. They didn't even have a phone, but since COVID started, you can call in, but you got to just spam the number. They won't even answer until you try about 20 times. They do Cooper Sharp on the cheesesteak, and that's the only type of cheese. So you can't get American, you can't get Whiz, can't get provolone. It's Cooper Sharp or nothing.
Huh.
But I gotta say, best cheesesteak in Philly, Angelo's Pizza in South Philly in the Italian market section. If you guys are ever in Philly looking for the local recommendation, that would be mine.
Yeah, there are 3 viewers in there. Have you ever had a cheesesteak? If so, what is the best cheesesteak? Or in your hometown, what's the can't miss food item? Because that's, I guess, the theme of this podcast is.
Going back to our Ropa Vieja, we just want to find the best dish in each city.
Yeah. That maybe that should also be the podcast. MMA and also weird food. I would do that. I would do that.
Now, food goes a long way. I don't know if you've ever seen Barstool's president Dave Portnoy does the pizza reviews, and they're a big hit. I mean, he's had a slice of pizza practically everywhere. I actually saw an article come out this week about #1 rated pizza in the country, and I mean, this is just one site's take, but gave it to Portland, Oregon, which they said there's a lot of new spots there that are really good. So I don't know. We have a cousin out there. Maybe we'll have to go check it out sometime.
I guess so. I guess if they say it's great, who am I to argue?
And Paulie, I know you're looking you might be making a move to Austin, Texas coming up. What's I mean, obviously barbecue comes to mind, but is there something else that they're known for?
Man, there's a place called Torchy's Tacos. So I made my brother-in-law. I was like, you got to take me to the Austin icons, right? This is the most important thing before I become a resident. And yeah, he was like Torchy's Tacos, and then like P Terry's. P Terry's is like the iconic burger place of Austin. So not that, I mean, sort of original, right? Austin Tex-Mex tacos, especially breakfast tacos. I guess breakfast tacos are like the jam in Austin. So I definitely had a few of those. Had a few hungover breakfast tacos. Totally worth it. Really outstanding. Tough. It's tough, man. Breakfast food, because it's like it has to have egg, or else it doesn't feel like a real breakfast food. But you can't overwhelm it with egg, right? You got to have enough to balance out sausage and cheese. If you got some vegetables, right? It's a hard thing to strike, and I feel like Torchy's did it well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we got a commenter here. I am Adger. He said, if I'll get a cheesesteak if I'm ever in America again, definitely give me a shout if you're in the Philadelphia area. We'd love to meet up and grab one from you. Also, fried bear. Let's see, we got In the Halls of Madness dwells a mad philosopher. That's a badass screen name. Fry bread Indian taco from Pow Wow. Ground meat with taco seasoning with tomatoes, lettuce, and cheese on fry bread. Find it at a gathering of natives. A powwow. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds fucking delicious.
Yeah. And our boy, I am Edgar again. What is the difference between a taco and a breakfast taco? So I guess just kind of egg, right? You were saying?
Yeah. So a breakfast taco is going to have egg. It's going to have usually a breakfast meat. So I'm partial to chorizo. I've seen a couple that do like carne asada, but usually it's egg and cheese are the two things that you will always see. Egg, cheese, and often hot sauce, right? That you will always see. And regular tacos are a little bit more flexible, right? You can have like al pastor where it's just onion and cilantro. So you may see some different combinations of regular tacos, but the egg I think is the defining feature.
Yeah, I mean, as far as regular tacos, I'm a sucker for carne asada. I just that's my go-to. Get me, maybe even throw some carne asada fries in there, not on the taco but on the side. Little ground beef, cheese. You're in business. Oh man, I'm getting hungry over here.
Dude,
I've been trying to eat
both.
Clean, but this is. Well, hey, let's kind of circle back to MMA a little bit. Any other points you want to hit before we get ready to wrap up here?
Yeah, I just want to bring up, is this the end? Is this Darren Elkins' last fight if he takes a loss here? Darren Elkins has really dropped off. He's got 7 consecutive losses, something significant, and he just broke it with 1 win. Let's see if I can find him here.
Looks like a sub over Luis Eduardo Garagori.
Yeah, someone who I don't even know. I mean,
yeah, but granted, his 4 losses prior to that, Nate Landwehr, who is kind of an up-and-comer, but Ryan Hall, Ricardo Lamas, Alexander Volkanovski, so not exactly a shitty string of losses.
Yeah, but losses nonetheless, and takes him into the 3rd round, but it's tough, man. He's let's see, so he's 38, 39, 37. He's 37. So, this is, it's hard to be older in the lighter divisions for sure. And I think, I feel like with a loss here, it may indicate that Darren Elkins is out at least of the top, the elite half of the UFC, if not the whole UFC,
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it comes down to where is he at as far as financials? What does he want to do? Is he kind of accepting that he's not going to ever kind of climb the rankings at this point and be in title contention? I think a lot of it comes down to that. It's funny, Paul. So we have a 3rd brother. We're one of 3 brothers, and our other brother, he's not a huge MMA fan by any stretch. He doesn't really watch fights, but one card I did watch for them was, I think it was UFC 209. I think that was one of the Woodley Thompson fights, but we watched a prelim with Elkins fought Mirsad Bektik, and oh my God, he got the brakes beat off. Elkins got the shit beat out of him for 2.5 rounds. I mean, it was one of those fights that corner could have stopped it in between the second and third round. You know, if Herb Dean was in there, he may have stopped it, but they let the fight go. And late, I think like third or fourth minute of the third round, Elkins just lands a huge shot and hurts Bektik and just pours it on and absolutely buries him, puts him away. One of the comeback fights that I think of the most when I think about MMA comeback. So Elkins is tough as nails, got that awful damage tattoo on him, but he's definitely a guy you got to love at this point, a real vet. And I don't know much about his opponent. You know anything about him?
I don't. Let's let me pick this up real quick.
Derek
Derek
Minner.
Minner. Yeah, Minner has fought. I mean,
31
Minner's
year
not
old
a
out of
killer.
Nebraska.
Looks
Trains
like
with Couture.
came out of. Let's see. Recent UFC signing, lost to Grant Dawson, beat TJ Laramie, who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, and then has a win over Charles Rosa. So
Yeah, he's been on a bit of a slide.
yeah, so I mean, this guy could put away Darren Elkins. Like, I think it's a dangerous fight for him. I mean, I won't be surprised if Darren Elkins pulls it out, gets him to the ground, smothers him, but I just know so little about his opponent that I wouldn't be able to make a pick. But again, it may be a loser leaves town type of situation.
Yeah. Well, all right. I mean, this was awesome. We got to touch on some subjects maybe we weren't expecting to, and we got some good action here in the comments section. So obviously, that's you got a little following with your channel. So I know I'm a very novice YouTuber here, so I appreciate you guys showing up, joining the stream. We're going to be here every week. Maybe we'll do some more live streams. Maybe at some point we'll do a live watch party for one of the events. But yeah, my pick for this week, first or second round for the Dillashaw Sandhagen fight. You guys can follow me on Twitter, and yeah, thanks for joining us. I'll let you get the final word in here, Paul.
Yeah. Again, thanks for you guys for coming out. This video is going to be moved to the Cage Potatoes MMA podcast, which you should absolutely hit subscribe on. And in future weeks when we live stream it, it's going to be live streamed on that site, but we'll let you guys know. We'll post about it on the other two channels. But again, we are really glad to have you guys dropping by. Yeah, and this has been a lot of fun. So until next time, we will absolutely see you guys later.